mouths full of rain after the flood. We sang I didn't mean to create a frog cult. Not at first. It began innocently, with one frog, a small, sagging thing with a face that looked half melted, half divine. I named him Cletus, after a man my father used to buy pills from. The name felt appropriate, greasy, resilient, like something that survives by crawling under the house and licking mold off copper pipes. Cletus stared through the glass at me, with eyes full of ancient silence, like he recognized the rot in me and approved. He was a dumpy tree frog, Litoria carillia, if you want the Latin, though these creatures wear no shame in their softness. People mock their name like dumpy is an insult, but these frogs don't shrink from their own gravity. They cling and sag and stretch like scoops of pistachio ice cream, left too long in the heat, melting across glass, watching you melt with them. There's something sacred in that kind of ugliness. Something that makes you feel seen. The Cubans came first, of course. Cuban tree frogs, already here, already winning. They worm into toilets, devour native species, and probably nibble away at joy itself. They weren't invited, but Florida never asks questions. It just absorbs. I figured if this place was going to be swallowed whole by sea levels, by heat, by time, then maybe it should be by something like Cletus, something soft, something with eyes. I didn't mean to breed them. I truly didn't. One frog turned into 2, then 20. Then the bathroom began to echo with a wet chorus, an alien kind of longing that pulsed through the pipes. If the neighbors heard, they said nothing. Florida teaches you when to look away. I was one croak away from an eviction. Tadpoles sloshed in takeout containers. Crickets and feeder roaches took over the cereal shelf. I woke one morning with a frog on my eyelid, breathing slow as moss. That's when I realized this wasn't collecting. It wasn't a hobby. It was colonization. Not by me, through me. I was the vessel, the medium, the bog. Florida itself is already invasive. The air, the plants, the people, all settlers or strays. Every lizard looks like it escaped from a reptile expo and picked up a nicotine addiction on the way. The entire state feels like a hospice for failed ecosystems. So I thought, if the end is already happening, why not shape it? Why not lean in and make the apocalypse beautiful? The first release site was behind a Wawa, next to a drainage canal that smelled like rusted teeth. I didn't give a speech. Just bought a 5-gallon bucket of juvenile frogs, tilted it, and waited. They didn't leap, they just sat there. One blinked, one climbed to the edge, paused, and turned to me as if to ask, "Are you sure?" I wasn't. But I whispered, "Go make Florida tolerable," and turned away before they could see the hesitation in my face. I thought they'd vanish, blend into the rot, but they didn't. I saw one stuck to a Redbox machine outside a CVS, blinking slowly like it was choosing a horror movie. Another in a cracked bird bath behind Walgreens, baptizing mosquitoes. One perched on a half-sunken shopping cart, floating in a canal like a god of rust and runoff. They were spreading, and maybe they were working. So I started releasing more. Parking lots, hotel fountains, golf courses, dumpsters behind urgent care clinics, any place that smelled forgotten or looked doomed. I never left notes, never asked permission, just tipped the bucket, let them crawl, and moved on. Little monks in sticky pilgrimage. And then others started to see them too at night. One clung to a bus stop ad for lip filler. Another perched under a flickering Waffle House sign. They weren't hiding anymore. They were present, intentional, like mold with a mission. My bathroom became a swamp. Egg clutches stacked beside old yogurt and nicotine patches in the fridge. Feeder insects escaped into the vents. Tadpoles swam in mason jars on the toilet tank. The floor squished when I walked. I stopped resisting, stopped going to work, stopped caring. They needed me, I told myself. This was sacred, necessary. But something shifted. The new frogs weren't like the others. One had too many toes, One had a sealed mouth beneath its chin. One blinked sideways and didn't stop, as if trying to remember something it had never lived. One croaked, and the window trembled. The water grew thick, smelling of mildew and static. I tested the pH, the ammonia. Everything came back clean, but the air felt wrong. I wore gloves. Then a mask. Then I gave up. I began waking up congested, puffing out green translucent film. At first I blamed the mold, but this wasn't mold. Mold doesn't hum. The first time, I pulled a green clump from my throat. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't want it recorded. Soon, I saw it in the mirror. The softening skin behind my ears, turning the color of pond algae. My pupils dilated, wide, black, wet. They looked like they'd been soaking in warm water for too long. My body didn't ache. It was accepted, and that was the terrifying part. Change should come with resistance. This felt like surrender. It started in the throat, not pain, pressure, a fullness, like something inflating behind my voice. I was in the cereal aisle when it escaped me, a croak, deep, wet, resonant. The fluorescent lights above flickered. I turned, heart racing, ready to apologize, but no one started, except one woman near the yogurt section blinked, like she'd come out of a trance. She smiled, not kindly, hungrily. I croaked again. She dropped her basket. It kept happening. I'd find myself at night, crouched near retention ponds, calling, not for help, but for something. And they came. Women, dozens, barefoot or in heels, scrub-clad or sun-dressed, drawn by something wet and wordless. They knelt in the grass, mouths open, eyes wide, not blinking, watching. Their pupils shimmered, oil-slick and endless. None of them spoke. There is something in me now. Broadcasting. Maybe it's pheromones, maybe sound. But more than that, it's the smell of algae in my breath, the way I glow under gas station lights, the way I know the names of every wet ditch in this ruined state. It's power. I don't understand it, but I wield it. And when the rains come, thick, warm, eternal, I open my mouth and let it pour in.